Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are watching Off the Track, and it is time to drop the hammer.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode number 35 of Off the Track. I'm your host, Tanner Holmes, and today we have a lot of fun things to talk about on the show. Also joining me, as usual, my best friend and co-host, Bennett Gooch. Bennett, how you been?
Pretty good, actually. Didn't get to go down to Red Bluff last weekend, but I'm excited to hear about it from your end. And next week's my birthday, turning 21, so looking forward to that. Going to hit Reno. But sadly, we're not racing Chico this weekend. I was wanting to race that, but I just don't think it'll be in the cards for our motor program just yet. I think it'll be good to get our motor done and then fully get it dialed in before we just put it in the car and go gung-ho at Chico. So pretty good, though.
And that's pretty big. I mean, don't get me wrong. I definitely remembered, but turning 21, that's huge. So big party or what?
Just gonna go down to Reno with me and just my parents. So I think it'll be a good time. I'm gonna go hit some blackjack tables and test our luck, I guess. See if we can buy a new race hauler.
There you go. That's always the way to do it. You mentioned Chico, which honestly, just talking, or thinking out loud here, I was checking the weather today, and even though, you said you weren't going to make it regardless, I'm not even sure they're going to run. The weather is not looking that good. I want to say maybe 60% chance of rain. And I mean, they're already, racing this time of year is already tough because, it's cold outside. It gets dark early. You don't have the sun playing as much of a factor. So even if they do race, usually it's pretty hooked up. I mean, it still has potential to be a great surface, but from what it looks like, I mean, I would not be surprised if the whole weekend gets washed out.
Yeah, I've been to Chico a couple times for Silver Cup specifically. I'm trying to remember what the exact name of it this year because it's a memorial race on top of Silver Cup now. But regardless, they've always had a great car count, and I think that's just because no one's really racing this time of year. Hanford had their first race last weekend. It was okay, I guess, not the ideal surface like you just mentioned there, but Silver Cup's kind of the same way. It's still cold, usually really windy, so I guess that dries it out, but hooked up and like you said, not looking too good in the forecast.
Yeah, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Regardless, though, we will be racing at the Red Bluff Outlaws, which obviously that's the luxury of getting to compete indoors. Is you never have a race cancel because the weather is just not a factor. So we'll keep an eye on Silver Dollar. I believe there's some non-wing action, maybe down in Central California with USAC, West Coast and CRA or one of those divisions.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting as far as a little bit of racing, on the West Coast, which Bennett and I are big non-wing fans. We absolutely love to watch those guys.
Yeah, non-wing is real cool, and I always kind of like to say if I was going to get in a sprint car or non-wing for the first time of my choice, I'm going to go with a non-wing. I just like how you really have to pedal it, and you guys have to find the grip there.
Absolutely. So we'll keep an eye on a little bit of that action as, the West Coast is just starting to, attempt to get their season going. Probably over the next 4 to 6 weeks, I would say, it's going to be a toss-up between racing and, weather issues and, races getting washed out as the Outlaws are rolling out here soon. A lot of weekly 360 competition and point seasons will be getting underway. And then at the same time, we will kind of be wrapping up our indoor season. To recap, to start today's show, I really wanted to hit on this last weekend like we always do at the Red Bluff Outlaws. It was truly a tough one. I mean, I'm sure some of you guys kind of saw the vlog from the weekend, but, Red Bluff, as Bennett and I have discussed so many times, it is such a tough racetrack for many different reasons. But one of them is just, sometimes you have things that are out of your control. You're battling the track conditions. You're battling a lot of tough competition, and it's really easy to, I don't even know what the right word is, but like get in just have like a night go south. And once things start like happening, it's easy to have a domino effect. And that's kind of, I felt like a little bit of what happened to us in a way. We qualified like 18th, which, qualifying's really been a struggle for me my whole entire racing career. I don't know what that is or what the issue is there, but it just always has been a little bit tougher, but we seem to race better and we bounced back and we won our heat race. And, one thing that was interesting, Bennett, that I wanted to mention was the racetrack was so fast. It literally was like our 250 qualifying days. It was hooked up. I think quick time was an 8.2 in the open class, which they have not seen an 8.2, and I think they said 3 years. And the 250s were qualifying about 8.5s, which I'm sure, because I know you had a couple quick times in 250s. That's probably about a time that the 38G or a couple of the other kids we were up competing against were turning, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's kind of rare, like I said, to kind of see the track this hooked up. And I know a couple group chats we're in, we discussed a while back, remembering the days where you were debating on going with putting a 3 on for the main event, and that was a gamble. And now you're almost guaranteed a 3 to a 50. So that's interesting. Sadly, I wasn't there to watch because, like you said, we've lately been seeing Red Bluff pretty dry for qualifying and especially the heat races.
Yeah, it's just been, over the years, it's just changed a lot, and there's many different reasons or ideas or, what's changing or if it's better or worse, but it was just crazy to see the place have that much grip and be that fast around the high side. It felt like, what we were used to, 5 to 7 years ago. So everybody was really quick. Everyone was on the hammer, and I actually think in a way, it makes mistakes a lot more critical because, if you're off a little bit, there's 2, 3, 4 tenths. And if, someone absolutely nails a lap, they're way out in front, like we saw probably the top 5, the guys that were the way up front. But as the night went on, the racetrack didn't really slow down. The only thing that we kind of talked about in my video, but the racetrack, even though it was still so hooked up at the beginning of part of the night, it still ended up getting abrasive and starting to clean off and head towards the direction of rubber for the feature. And, I'm not really sure why it exactly did this. My only thought, and I'd be curious to hear what you think, Bennett. And, the track promoter, Brandon Williams, he was trying to, because the racetrack started to get rough, so he was kind of out there trying to, I'm blanking on the equipment, the piece of equipment that he used. But basically, he's trying to, move the material, not like a grader, but he's trying to move the material to fill in some of the holes. Because
box scraper?
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's what he normally uses. Yep.
Yeah, he was out there with the box scraper, and I get it. He was trying to smoothen out the track because usually when Red Bluff's a little bit more hooked up, it does tend to get, a little rough and holes in certain spots. But I didn't really think it was that bad. But I think what ended up happening this last weekend, and I could be very wrong because I'm not a dirt guy, but he tried to fix the track twice. And I think what ended up happening is there was all the good dirt on the top of the surface. And as he was out there with the scraper, he kind of, in a way, scraped, I think, some of that extra material and moisture that we normally wouldn't have off. So basically, by after the heat races, we were actually in a similar situation to where the track sealed over, it got clean, and then boom, we were on our way for rubber and just a harder surface on tires.
Yeah, I know when you pull a box scraper out, it definitely hardens the material. It doesn't really, the idea is there to take off the roughness or whatever's on top and you'll have fresh stuff, but it makes it a lot harder actually. And over the years racing, I have kind of always just been, oh, rough tracks suck. But in a kart, I think my opinion has changed a lot. I've seen a few times this year out of turn 2, especially, there's been some real rough bumps, and the box stock kids especially have to hit it perfectly. If they don't get a good exit off the corner, they're gone at least 2 car lengths, or someone is getting out in front of them 2 car lengths. And I personally think a little track character at the Red Bluff Outlaws doesn't hurt. I think it makes it more technical, and you're going to have the drivers that know a little bit more about their cars and how to handle them better are going to come out on top. And I think a technical track like that's almost better. I know it kind of sucks when it's too rough, but what are your thoughts on that? Because, I think Red Bluff gets to a state where everyone's able to run it, especially when it goes rubber down. You can pretty much run anywhere on the surface. Doesn't mean you're going to be the fastest, but you can. But I kind of like the rough track.
And my opinion's actually changed as well, because I've never been a guy to like rough tracks, but I do agree. Some characters actually not bad. And what we had this last weekend had potential to be possibly one of the best surfaces of the year if it could have maybe held moisture to where it just started to get slick for the features. But it ended up not being that, which does happen. But I agree. I think, especially if the holes happen to be placed in the right spots where on entry to turn 3 is where one of them in particular this last weekend was, and you almost had to enter below it or you had to straddle it. So it was definitely avoidable. but it added one extra obstacle, going around in circles, which as a race car driver, if you have 3 or 4 of those out there, that makes it much more difficult to go around the track, could produce a better product for the racing. And overall, it just takes a better, it takes a driver to be at their best to make it happen. So honestly, over the years, I think my opinion has definitely changed a little bit. I don't like a place where it looks like a bunch of craters out there or whatever, where, guys are about tipping over and it's really hard on equipment. But I do think that there is a little bit of a healthy balance in, kart racing, and you could even argue sprint cars, but it really just depends at what racetrack. But I would say Red Bluff for sure. Maybe on a good night, if there's a couple holes that were placed in the right spots, it could slow down certain lines and make the racing very even. So ended up this last weekend, started to take rubber, and in my opinion, how I like to see the racetrack is if it's going to go rubber down, I would like to see it just go full on rubber, because regardless, it's going to be hard on tires. And then at least if there's some rubber on the bottom, you can really still utilize that lane, where this weekend it was just starting to get abrasive on the top. So like my race car, for example, it was really snappy. I was not able to really make any line work besides the top, and it still took me 8 or 10 laps into the first run for my car to even really get to where it needed to be. So we were a little bit off, which, I mean, that happens. Just in general, as we run races throughout the year, you're going to have some nights where you're absolutely money and you're the best car in the field, and you're going to have nights where you're a little bit out to lunch for certain parts, or you have to set up for different track states, like if you want to be good early or good at the end. And unfortunately, we just didn't even make it to the end of the race because of an incident that I was in, and also, like I mentioned, I really wasn't that great. But I think if I could have made it to lap 30, I would have been really good at the end, because my teammate Landon Brooks, he survived, and he was one of the fastest cars on the racetrack in the last 5 laps. But like I said, it was just a little too much, a little too late, and you will have that. So kind of a rough night. But Bennett, as us, like, we're racers, sometimes you leave certain tracks, and Red Bluff is one of them. Sometimes you leave there with the mentality of you love the place and it's the greatest racetrack on the earth, and sometimes you leave it with when you never want to come back.
Yeah, I know Red Bluff is definitely that way. There's a couple other times, other tracks where, we've been like, dang, that was a sick race. That was an awesome track. And then other times we're like, I don't even know why we come around here. So we know that feeling for sure.
Yeah, and Red Bluff is it's one of those places, but in the end, it just takes a couple of days to, like, because I won't lie, I've been super frustrated not last couple weeks. I mean, we won the first race back, and then Perpetual Trophy Night didn't really end how we wanted to. So you just kind of have to take time to reflect and realize, our season has been phenomenal. I guess in racing, I feel like one thing I've noticed is, we've obviously evolved to becoming one of the more top guys at Red Bluff as far as competing for wins on a nightly basis. So anything less than a win in a way is disappointing, which is a good mentality to have. But man, it makes it tough, because obviously, every night if you don't win, it's like it's tough. Every racer wants to be in victory lane at the end of the night. So we have 2 races left. Just an update on the point situation. We are currently sitting 19 out behind my teammate Landon Brooks and 6 ahead of third. So the top 3 are spread out by 25. None of us 3 are out of it. Red Bluff's a crazy place and things change fast. So, our mentality really, though, is, we're going into these next 2 weeks to win the next 2 main events. And if we can make that happen, we might be sitting pretty as far as the championship goes. But if not, like I said, it's been a great season, and we're just going to keep our heads down and working hard to finish off our season strong with Factory QRC. After the Red Bluff season concludes, we have West Coast Nationals, which West Coast Nationals is one of the most fun events of the year, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, not only is it the premier, I'm going to go ahead and say the premier outlaw kart race of the year, it's also one of the biggest parties for outlaw karts.
Oh, 10 out of 10. It's just a fun event, and I think Red Bluff's done a great job making it more of an event throughout the years. I think this year it's like 4 nights. The first night is it's same format as we had last year. It's the practice on, maybe it's Thursday's practice. So
I think it's Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday will be practice. And, like, for example, guys that have ran there all season probably won't run many laps. Like, we won't practice because there's just really no need to. It's more for guys coming from long distances and out of town, which, it's good for them to get those laps, to give them a shot to get up to speed, especially, a place like Red Bluff is a little bit tougher, I would say, than the average speedway to get around. And then they also will have the Cage Clone Classic, which was one of the most entertaining races I probably watched in 2021.
Yeah, I'd like to get out there in someone's cage clone. I don't have any cart stuff left, so if anyone's listening to this, right, I'll come rip for you. But it might be a little bit different just to hang out and watch a race this time, I guess.
Yeah, if you are listening, absolutely hire Bennett. He will drive and work on the car for free. He just needs to just needs a chance. That'd be fun to watch. But the Cage Cone Classic was literally a blast last year. I know everyone kind of hung out. The grandstands were packed. It was like the Sunday finale of West Coast Nationals, but for the Cage Cone Classic. So that'll be interesting. Then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday we will have the West Coast Nationals, which includes a format of, you know, they have the heat race picks start the weekends. We get to hot lap and then we get to pick our heat race. So that is different than any other race we've ever been to. Obviously, getting the chance to pull a pill, and in that order, you get to go up and just literally write your name down where you want to start in your heat race. And then the second round of heats is a complete invert off of that. And then we have a qualifier, which is that is determined by the heat race finishes and all the points. And then after the qualifier, they add up the points from the heat races and that to determine the starting lineup for all the main events. So it is one of the most fun weekends. It's going to be entertaining to watch. It's going to be fun to be a part of, probably a little bit stressful, but I think anybody in the outlaw kart world is looking forward to it.
Yeah, are you because I know the whole pick a heat race position was new to everyone last year. Now that you have one race under your belt with it, do you have any new strategies going into it, or ones that you can even share on the podcast?
You know,
Because I know Jimbo's got a plan.
yeah.
Jimbo has a plan.
Oh,
so.
no, you're right. I don't know. My strategy last year didn't work, but I think part of it didn't work because I don't really felt like I did a lot wrong, but I needed to be more patient. So basically last year I chose the front row of one of my heat races, and then that put me in the last row for my next set of heats. So then I got to win one of my heats, but then on the second day when I started in the back, I ended up two spinning out because it was such a wreck fest, and literally my heat race went downhill so quick. Like the first corner I tried to dive off the top to shoot down low underneath the car, and someone was there and it tipped me over, and then within like 2 laps I got in another wreck. It was just, so maybe the strategy would be more in the middle of both heats. It really just depends, I feel like, who you're with. If you put a good guy on the front row and you have to come from the second or third row and beat him, even though you're going to start ahead of him in the next one, that's a tall task. But I guess regardless, there's going to be fast people in each heat, and you're going to have to go forward no matter what. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And honestly, a part of it too is just what pill I pull. So like we could talk about strategy all day long, and then I could be the last guy to walk up to the board because I pulled the 100 pill.
That's true.
So we'll just have to see what we get. And also, I don't think it's good to be the first guy to go up to the board because, you don't know who you're going to be in a heat race with. Everyone kind of just scatters around you. So hopefully it's like last year where I think I was right after the 50% mark. So I literally got to see where most guys were at, kind of see what heat races were hopefully going to be easier or could put me in a better spot, and from there pick away. So that's West Coast Nationals, and that is kind of like the end of the Outlaw Kart winter season. After that, everything goes into the summertime racing. And kind of for our next segment, we want to talk about bigger race cars, and in particular, dwarf cars and sprint cars, what Bennett and I are going to be competing in during the summer months. And I want to talk about places that I'm looking forward to. Now, although I haven't necessarily 100% released my full schedule, I've kind of hinted at places I'm going to be at, and I plan on releasing that schedule this next week as we just finalize the final couple of racetracks. But places that I'm excited for and places that Bennett is excited for. So Bennett, we'll start with you. Like, looking at your season ahead, what racetracks are you looking forward to getting to, or maybe events that are big for the dwarf car guys?
So I don't know if I can specifically say this one on the podcast because I don't know if you can spoil anything, but I don't know either. So anyone listening to this, I don't know if this is something Tanner would run or not, but I do know dwarf cars are running Ocean Speedway the same week as World of Outlaws. I guess that would be cool to go be a sporting class for Woo down in Ocean, but that's later in March. I know thinking about running Ocean, I'd want to go down when you go down, so I just have to check their schedule. Maybe I'll hit a race there. And that might correlate with the one race at Hanford. So I want to race Hanford in the dwarf car because I think they have one race there. I'm thinking that's going to be a pretty fun track because it'll be like kind of long, straight, and slick. So you don't want to rotate too much. And then I think from there, Speed Week that we tried to run last year, Speed Week, I want to run that. I'm looking forward to that, and probably just Wairika and Southern Oregon as the local tracks. I'm really excited to go to run Southern Oregon actually, and hopefully going to be able to run there when you or Carly races too. And I think that'll be it, and possibly Placerville. I think Placerville will be fun because I think you might or might not run there. I'm not sure. I'll let you explain that a little bit.
Yeah, well, first off, Hanford in a dwarf car has got to be nuts. I don't even know if they've ever ran there before, but that just sounds like a thrill and a half with just how fast those cars get going, and then also just the type of car. It's almost like a bigger go-kart, but on a place like Hanford, which is, like you said, it's long straightaways, tight corners, pretty wide surface. So yes, everything Bennett said. I think that some of those tracks he mentioned, like Ocean, I think there's going to be a chance we'll be there on the same night. Which Ocean is pretty much most likely going to be our first race of the season on April 1st. So I'm not sure if dwarf cars are competing that night, but if they are, that could be a good opportunity. And that's a Friday show. And then Tulare Thunderbolt is that Saturday. So we're going to run those two racetracks. That kind of like kicks off our season, and both of them are in a 360 weekly. I think the first night's Taco Bravo, which is, Ocean's weekly series. And then Tulare is, I think, King of Thunder. After that, we then head, I think we're in California for another weekend, and then we kind of start working towards the Pacific Northwest. So how it works is California season starts earlier, and then Oregon and Washington kind of get going mid-April towards the end of April. And even then, it's still kind of risky with weather and what shows will end up getting ran and what shows don't. Specific places that I'm excited to get to that I wanted to talk about on the podcast. I'm so excited to see what Skagit has in store this season because they are kind of, I feel like, this track that's a little bit on a pedestal this season out here in the Pacific Northwest. There's been a lot of coverage about all the updates being done to the Speedway, which for anybody that doesn't know, Skagit is located up in Burlington, Washington. It's about 30 minutes to an hour.
Dang near Canada.
Yeah, it's literally right up there by Canada, but it's a more well-known racetrack. And it's kind of like Washington's premier facility. And now with Peter Murphy taking it over, they are going to have a lot of eyeballs on them this year. And then with the Dirt Cup, which we plan on attending, it is 410s again. So 410 sprint cars competing, and then with the Northwest Focus Midgets as a support class, and it's $50,000 to the winner. So that is a marquee event in the Pacific Northwest that I think literally everybody in the country is going to be watching. There's three other racetracks also that I'm pretty sure it sounds like we're going to be back at this upcoming season. And I'm just really excited because I've been there now. I've got the chance to turn circles around them, and just with that little bit of experience, it adds that comfortability and that excitement, to now be going back to those places. One of them being Knoxville. Who doesn't get excited to go to Knoxville? It's the sprint car capital of the world. The energy just around the town is so top-notch. The other racetrack that I'm looking forward to getting back to is in Eldon, Missouri, and that is the Lake Ozark Speedway. That was just a really fun racetrack that we got to experience. You got a ton of really neat shots. It's a cool little town in a good area, and that's a place that was just a blast to get to experience for the first time in 2021.
Yeah, I liked Lake Ozark. I really liked when we were able to go up in the suites. That was pretty cool. No one was up there, and I figured, hey, let's just walk up here. So that was pretty cool to be able to get a view from up there. But also, like you said, Knoxville, if I get to go this year, that place is unreal. It's so cool, and I'd like to go back. And this year, I'll have a pit bike at least. So we only need one moped this time because I guess it's street legal there. So I think we'll be dialed.
Yeah, we were ripping around on some fans' mopeds, and definitely having something to drive around on is huge. It makes the experience way better, and everything is just right there within blocks. So, Knoxville is, if you've never been there, I've said it probably multiple times on Off the Track, but absolute bucket list if you are a dirt track fan of any kind. I mean, I don't care if you're into modifieds, you need to go to the Knoxville Nationals. It's just it's something you don't want to miss out on. Then the other track I'm such a fanboy for It's lakeside in Kansas. It's right there in Kansas City, and I just really like the place. I don't know what it is. It's a slick half mile or right under a half mile, but I've ran there twice in my whole entire life, and I had a blast both times. So going back there for a third time would be a really good opportunity, and I think it's a place that we could legitimately win at with a pretty solid, field of competition with ASCS. So looking forward to getting back to Lakeside. Other than that, there was one other thing, another segment I wanted to talk about real quickly. So Bennett and I always talk about racing and what we're doing and a little bit behind the scenes and shop and preparation. But something I feel like we've never really touched on is fitness and, trying to prepare our bodies for, driving race cars. Because I think racing is a sport where it doesn't require as much fitness, I guess you could say. Some of these guys, maybe don't put much effort in that area. But I personally think it's very beneficial in just getting in the right mindset to get behind a high horsepowered race car and be successful. So Bennett and I lately, we've been changing a little bit in our, not eating, I guess, drinking habits, we should say. And when I say drinking, Bennett and I have both cut out soda over the last month. Have you still been staying strong?
I had to break this last weekend due to circumstance. You know what I was doing this last weekend down in UC Davis with some medical stuff off scenes, but I had to break that one time because that's all the opportunity I had to drink something. And I was thirsty. But other than that, I've been staying strong, and then ripping the gym real often.
That's good. That's good to hear. Yeah, we've been like very, very or trying our best, to cut out soda. And even myself, here's my biggest problem. Being honest is like, so I've done pretty good without soda, but I still need to not drink some other things like Gatorade. I didn't realize how much sugar was in Gatorade. Bennett and I literally could not live without Dutch Bros, which if you're from the West Coast, you know how popular that is.
Oh yeah.
It's hard. It's really hard. So we've been doing our best, but I feel like overall just putting in the effort to try to be a little bit better and, maybe just, have a little bit less of it has helped. But that's not even the main one. Like I said, that was just a little side note. But then Bennett and I have both been just working out more as of lately. We've kind of been trying to hold ourselves to that standard. I try to go to the gym and then also get some cardio in, and Bennett's been doing the same. And personally, even if it's just a little bit, a couple times a week, I feel like that effort just kind of helps you, like I said, and be in the right mindset. Because at the end of the day, there are going to be situations throughout a season, maybe it's not every weekend, but you get in a spot where maybe a race goes green to checkered or the racetrack gets really rough, and you need to have that little extra in the tank or that little extra strength that you possibly prepared for to help you win, or, it could be the factor in winning or losing that race.
Yeah, I think we might have to shoot a video on some of our favorite exercises or workouts, I guess, for other people that want to get into it that are kind of racing themed. I have some specific things I do. Other people are looking at me like, what is that? They never see that at the gym before, but I feel like it targets key muscles and stuff on me that I use racing, and I think it's pretty beneficial.
Yeah, and I definitely need to probably get a little bit more specific on exactly, as far as like preparing for, going like endurance and, specific muscles that you use in the car. So that's where I need to be a little bit better. But yeah, I agree with you. It's just, doing those specific workouts and just putting in that effort is, that's the difference. And that shows, how much, we want to win and be successful and put it all out on the line. So races are won at the track, but races are also won, in the shop, at the gym. And actually the saying they always say is every race is won before, or every battle is won before it is fought. So I can 100% stand behind that. So Bennett and I are going to keep grinding. One last little open segment, Bennett, you wanted to touch on. Do you want to hit on those?
Yeah, I had the first thing I wanted to ask was if you, because I know someday we're gonna have to own a track or something, but if you could own a motorsports park, or something that entailed multiple forms of racing, what would your ideal property look like?
Man, this is good. So if I could own a racetrack, I would probably want to have something similar to like a Knoxville, I would say. I think having a pretty good size racetrack, probably around a 3/8 mile, not quite a half, but not anywhere near probably a quarter, like a nice high banked 3/8 mile. And then I'd want to make sure to obviously have a big grandstands area, have suites. I think suites at a dirt track are huge. It's so professional, and it adds just a stadium-like look. And also, as normal, I wouldn't just want to have like regular concessions. See, so because like if we're just talking in dream terms here, I would love to have like a Dutch Bros stand there and have like, maybe have like a couple different options as far as places to eat, like, have something like an In-N-Out, or have like some Hawaiian food, like have all sorts of different options. I think that would be really cool. And then I think it's key that a lot of racetracks don't always, necessarily take advantage of is like a camping spot. I think it'd be cool to have a campground probably really close somewhere, maybe not just like not like an open field, like actually maybe a small campground that has some theme with the racetrack, because I think that encourages people to make it more of an event and stay for longer periods. I know like Knoxville, some of the people like leave their motorhomes in the area all season long to attend the races. So you want to try to make it more of a atmosphere like that. Some of the tracks we've been to, like Lucas Oil, they kind of do that situation with the camping, and they also have a pond. So I think it'd be cool to have a pond close by, because I know a lot of race car drivers can also be, into fishing. So that would be a fun thing to do. Other than that, though, I don't know. I mean, I would just try to have a racetrack that is just like a Knoxville or a Lucas Oil Speedway. I'm trying to think of anything else crazy to add. I mean, obviously you want to make sure you have a big parking lot and just anything possible to, bring in more people. I would make sure to definitely have an area, because I think some racetracks don't necessarily think about this, or it just doesn't necessarily work, but a good place for, the t-shirt trailers, and be able to take advantage of that, because some of the tracks we went to is super crowded, and drivers didn't really have a spot they could kind of do that.
Yeah, those are all really good ideas. It's, you can honestly go on for days down to the minor details and whatnot, but if I'm thinking of an ideal track that I'd want to own or put together, I'm almost thinking something the size of Port Royal. I mean, honestly, Port Royal is one of my favorite tracks. It's awesome. And they're actually adding suites right now and more grandstands to their facility, which is pretty cool. But I'd want a facility or a track that's on private property, not a fairgrounds. And then I would also, if I could, I feel like this would be really cool. This is kind of a design. I'm going to try to make the picture in your head, but just from the rodeo aspect, putting on a huge event like that, I would want a track that goes, so how Bristol's completely surrounded in grandstands?
Yes.
So I would want like turns 2, backstretch, 3, 4, and front stretch. I want grandstands all the way around there, right? With like suites on top of them.
Yeah.
And then when you look down into turn 1 and 2, on and off on the exit there's going to be a straight row of the trailers and haulers just lined up. So like the stadium almost opens up, and where it opens up, all you can see is the pit area.
That's cool.
So it's like not hidden. And then that way, like the infield, you can have fans down there or whatever, but it's not packed with like haulers and stuff like that. That way it kind of like puts more attention on the race that's going on, or the cars and stuff like that. And then, I just want something where it kind of like puts an emphasis on the race that's going on, and then the pit area. And then, like you said, I think a cool food area with shirts and vendors. And then I think a year-round campground would be cool. Like, even if you're not coming to race, but you just want to camp, come hang out here. And then if there's a race going on, you can go watch a race too. So I think something like that would be pretty cool.
And I definitely like the kind of, you mentioned possibly having something in the infield. I think there's something about watching a race from the infield. If there was a way to where it didn't interfere with the people watching from the outside, I think the best possible spot you could watch a race almost would be like if you were high enough up in the infield. It could be a little dizzy because you're always turning in circles, but if you were high enough up, then you could almost see each direction evenly in a way. Obviously, that kind of possibly would hinder people from the outside watching, because like Knoxville, for example, they do not allow you to stand on your trailer or after qualifying
right.
For like heat races and A-main events, because it blocks the people watching from the outside. But I can agree with you on so many levels of just little things to do that, some racetracks maybe can't do, or, haven't thought about or whatnot. But especially when you start going to the Midwest, you start seeing these facilities that just they blow you away. And what an average facility looks like out there, I feel like is a top-notch facility here almost. Because on the West Coast, we got some nice places, but we just because of where some of them are located. Bennett mentioned, being on private property, that's huge. A lot of our places out here on fairgrounds. And so I don't necessarily know how it all works, but obviously it's difficult.
I think the one thing that we have on the West Coast is the history in our places and facilities. And when I say history, they've been there for so long that they're actually, I guess you could say, outdated in a way. It's not that they're not new or they're not crappy or whatever, but they're just outdated. Like, they've been around so long, and the racing there's been around for so long. Some of these events, are completely getting revamped and stuff. Like in the Midwest, or new tracks are popping up, like Circle City, right, in Indiana. And when they pop up, they have the ability to rebuild and make it a premier facility compared to a track out here that's got great racing, but an older facility.
And you just hit the nail on the head. That is the outlook that any racer fan, that is what is pretty much going on. Yeah, out here we got places that have been around forever, and they are not necessarily able to make upgrades, or the funding's not there, or whatever the case may be. Where in the Midwest there's so many tracks, so there's just a lot more opportunity for good facilities. And I think also maybe the standard's a little bit higher, because if you don't have a great place, there's so many places to race that people will probably just go elsewhere.
Right.
That was one of the topics Bennett has, and I know the second topic that he's going to cover here that is actually from it's a NASCAR one from this past weekend.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, what's your opinion on the Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott incident? For anyone that doesn't know, Kyle Larson was blocking Joey Logano on the bottom. Chase Elliott went pretty high to get around him, 3 wide for the win, and Larson came up and didn't see him. In my opinion, did not see him. Spotter was late to the call and hit him, and it ultimately ended Chase's weekend there. But what were your thoughts?
So, I don't know. In the moment, I just wanted to see a great finish. That was one of the first times I felt like in a while I was a little bit more on the edge of my seat watching a NASCAR race. Like, I feel like this product that they're chasing, or what they might have with this new car, is actually, it's exciting. Like, I was like, man, this is a good race.
I have one thing to mention there real quick that you say about the new car. And I just have to say this because I've been seeing it on social media. And anyone that listens to this that's a NASCAR fan, quit freaking complaining and criticizing about the car. I'll admit, I hate the numbers, right? It looks so ugly, okay? But in my opinion, give the whole car a full season before you make an opinion on it. Because I already see people in the comments that are like, oh, this sucks, this sucks. You've literally seen the car race 2 times, 3, including the Clash, but that's not even a normal track. And I don't know how people aren't entertained. I mean, like you said, I was on the edge of my seat, but give the whole car at least a full season before you make up your opinion or mind on it.
Yeah, I would back everything you just said there. And I'm not even really in the NASCAR circle. I felt like I have been tuning in a little bit more these last couple of races to just see what this new car is. If maybe, because not to say I haven't been interested, but I just, it just like I said, I haven't been on the edge of my seat. And I was watching that Auto Club show, which Auto Club's also one of our favorite tracks. We love to run there on a NASCAR Inside Line. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it was good racing. It was good racing. And, the 5 was really good there at the end. And my opinion on this situation is if I have to, after thinking about it and watching some of the videos of each driver, I would say, yeah, that was probably the spotter's fault. Maybe Larson really didn't know he was out there, as he said. And, I think if anything, you just, no matter what, if you're Chase Elliott, you're frustrated because it looked really bad in the moment. And then, obviously his stuff's broke. His day's over. He already had a long day to get back to where he was at. So, I mean, you can call it racing for sure. And that's just one of those more, an asphalt situation where, the spotter just, was not quick enough to call. And after hearing Larson's point of view, it made a little bit more sense because he said he was so focused on the car to his inside that he wasn't even thinking anybody would be out there. Last minute, he's trying to get back up towards the fence to enter the corner as he was, doing that all day long. So it makes sense, but it's definitely going to cause, I mean, I'm sure everything's going to be fine at Hendrick, but it definitely causes a little bit of controversy and, possibly a rivalry starting or something, just a little bit of tension between those two, as this could be, a season where there's some of the top guys. Hopefully, though, some of our drivers, Kyle Busch, any of the guys from Joe Gibbs can get up there and play with them. But yeah, this new car is going to be, we got to give it a whole season and see. But so far, I think the on-track product is what NASCAR is shooting for, and hopefully it continues to show us that.
Well, like you mentioned, I think when I texted you, you were hoping Suarez would win, and I was actually kind of rooting for him too. But when's the last time you've seen a car of that caliber, in the old series, come up and contend for a win against those guys? I think it really just goes to show that the playing field's getting a lot more even now, and some of these guys who never really had the best opportunity then are going to have one now, and I think it's going to provide for some nail biters at the end.
And that's what we need. And I think racing in general, I think the more, not everyone to be in the exact same cars, obviously, you want a little bit of difference in the sport, but I think, if you show up to a racetrack and you have 30 really good, competitive, close cars, that's going to be a better show than, if you have 40 cars, or even if you have 30 and, obviously 5 of them are way better than the rest. Those guys are going to pull away and have their own race, and they can still have a good race, but it's just really cool to see, Bennett said, Suarez, I had texted him. I was pumped. I was like, I think this guy might win the race. And to have all the different manufacturers and all these different teams have a shot, that's exciting from a fan standpoint. So we'll have to see what these next couple of weeks bring. But other than that, that kind of wraps up episode number 35. We covered a lot of different stuff from Red Bluff to, some places we're excited to get to this season, talk a little bit about Bennett and I are going to keep grinding in the gym, and then a little NASCAR talk after some controversy from Auto Club this past weekend. Bennett, you have anything else you'd like to add?
Not much. I'm really enjoying these podcasts, and I'm looking forward to the content we're going to be able to put out this summer.
Absolutely. So we will see you guys all next Wednesday in episode 36. Make sure to wish Bennett a happy 21st birthday, and we will see you guys all then.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are watching Off the Track, and it is time to drop the hammer.